The Denver Nuggets championship run starts tonight, and I cannot wait to see how this team absolutely dismantles the National Basketball Association. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Caden Cooler, and thank you guys for tuning in. I am all in on the Denver Nuggets. I have been since this huge offseason with all of these major additions took place. I have been of the thought process that no one will stop Nikola Jokic. No one will get in his path, and this offseason proved to me that this Nuggets team has enough to get through this loaded Western Conference because, man, I watched the opening night games. I watched this peak cinematic experience between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets and the way these two teams played and thought, okay, these are going to be two of the teams that the Nuggets are going to have to ultimately go through to get to the championship. But I believe they can do it. And we saw it last year with how close the Nuggets came to ultimately beating the Oklahoma City Thunder in the postseason. But we'll dive into that. I want to talk about the offseason. I want to talk about Nikola Jokic. I want to talk about the Western Conference. And I want to talk about why I believe this team will win the NBA championship and why I've never felt so confident about it. The season starts tonight. They play the Golden State Warriors on the road. This is going to be a fun game and just overall fun to watch the eye test. Now, I think in the beginning of the season, there's always some rust that has to be shaken off. So I'm not going to take too much into account for tonight's game. Like, yes, I'm going to be watching to see how they play ultimately, but I'm not going to overreact, if they lose in a close one. The Warriors are a good team. Everything would indicate that they will be a high seed in the Western Conference with Jimmy Butler now there for an entire offseason, full year incoming for him. Let's talk about the Nuggets. Made some huge additions this offseason. The main problem for Denver last year was the fact that they had nobody around Nikola Jokic that could hit the three-point shot at a consistent basis. Now, Michael Porter Jr. was a good player, but he got injured in the playoffs, really struggled to effectively hit that three-point shot. With the losses of Bruce Brown the year before, he was a really consistent and reliable three-point shooter. You just had guys that you lost that really weren't there to knock down that shot when Jokic would get double and triple teamed like we saw so much in that Oklahoma City series. Now, with the additions that they made, trading Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson, a guy that is a 39% three-point shooter, a guy that also can contribute defensively, because that was another major issue for Denver. It was really three things. It was really the three-point shooting, which is a big one, the defense struggled. We saw it a lot in that Oklahoma City series, and then their depth. Those are the three biggest issues for Denver last year. And in my opinion, they cleaned up all of those issues. Maybe the one that's there's still a little bit of uncertainty is the defensive side of the ball, but I think Cam Johnson is a guy that's really going to help clean that up, a guy that is going to be outside of Aaron Gordon. Those are really going to be your two alpha males on the defensive side of the basketball, which is a really good sign. I really like those two players as defenders overall. Christian Braun is also a really solid defender. So I think overall, you have three guys that can get it done defensively. Now, you cleaned up the depth. You cleaned up the shooting. That's why you went and signed Tim Hardaway Jr. That's why you went and re-signed, I should say, Bruce Brown as well. Two guys that are scrappy off the bench. They can come in, knock down three-point shots. They can give you solid minutes. In the playoffs last year, Denver really couldn't even give Jokic much of a break. They couldn't give any of their guys much of a break because, let's face the string music here, Christian Braun was really their only solid player off the bench. They really had nobody else that could do anything off the bench. And so it was such a struggle when you had to see Jokic go off the floor. Like, this team was historically bad when Jokic would go off the floor, and then they were like historically good when Jokic would come on the floor. But now you get Jonas Valanciunas to back up Jokic, who, hey, you only need him for 8 to 10 minutes a game, realistically. Jokic could play 9 or 10 minutes of every quarter. I'm sure you're not going to want to be playing him that much maybe in the regular season. But in terms of the playoffs, because we're focused on a long, deep run for the Denver Nuggets, because they're going to win the championship this year. So that's why it's so massive that they went out and got Jonas Valanciunas to really help clean up the depth for the center position and for the best player on the planet, Nikola Jokic, who, face it, folks, he needs a little bit of rest at times. I know he is just this unbelievable player that we watch, but he needs a few minutes off during the games. And so that's what Jonas Valanciunas gives you. Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, two guys that can knock down the three-point shot, two guys that can give you a spark off the bench, and two guys, more importantly, that you feel comfortable going to off the bench. There was really nobody last year that you felt secure going to, saying, well, outside of Christian Brown, we really don't have anyone that's going to give us that great of minutes. Like Julian Strawther, he hit a few shots. He had a really nice game against the Thunder in the playoffs. Peyton Watson at time could knock down shots, but really those weren't two guys that you wanted to really rely on. You can really rely on Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr., in my opinion, because they can knock down shots. Tim Hardaway Jr. Last season was nearly at a 37% percentage from beyond the arc, 11 points per game. This is going to be a solid addition just for the three-point shooting when Jokic gets doubled. And then you look at Bruce Brown, a guy who shot just under 36%, but when he was with the Nuggets a few seasons ago, he averaged over 11 points per game, and I think he's going to really fit into his role well. He really bounced around over the last few years. So it's nice to see him back at his original home in Denver. And we can't understate how big these moves were, even though it wasn't, Luka Doncic now with the Nuggets. It wasn't any of these huge moves that we've seen over the last year. It wasn't any massive blockbuster moves. It was the small pieces that the Nuggets needed to now make a championship push, because ladies and gentlemen, when you have the best player in the world and you have Nikola Jokic, who, let's face it, he should have won the MVP last year. I will die on that hill. He should have won the MVP last year, but that's for another video. I've already feel like I've made like 10 videos about it. But when you have the best player on the planet, you've got a leg up over everyone. When you've got Jamal Murray, who, when the postseason comes around, turns into a madman, you're in a pretty good spot with those two. Now you have Aaron Gordon, who has blossomed into not only a great three-point shooter, but man, I think he's one of the most underrated players in basketball. Honestly, what he does for this Nuggets team, being almost like the enforcer slash three-point shooter slash rebounder, bruiser, like he can do so much for this team. Just this great player in the dunker spot when Jokic takes the double around the free throw line, just kicks it to Aaron Gordon. Boom, there's a freakishly great dunk. Like Aaron Gordon, we can't understate what he does for this Nuggets team as well. So that's a great core three guys right there. And Michael Porter Jr. was awesome, but I think swapping him for Cam Johnson is going to be a really good move for this team, just in terms of three-point consistency, in terms of what he can do on the defensive side of the ball. It's unbelievable. And then Christian Brown, I'm really excited about him overall. He's now entering his fourth season. He's only continued to get better as a pro. Last year, he nearly shot 40% from beyond the arc and averaged over 15 points per game. I think this Nuggets starting five is unbelievably good. Then you have Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Valanciunas. This lineup is ready to make a championship run, in my opinion, because in the Western Conference, they were already that close to beating the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were an unstoppable buzzsaw in the playoffs. Now you get that much better after taking them to a Game 7 with Michael Porter Jr. injured and with Aaron Gordon having his hamstring nearly ripped off the bone. Like, they were going through so much last year and almost beat the team that was so unstoppable on their path to winning a championship. They were that close. And to me, they got so much better this offseason. And that's why I do believe they will win it all. In a brutal Western Conference, with the Rockets, with how good they look, with the Lakers, with Luka probably having an MVP season, with the alien now on planet Earth, with Victor Wembanyama playing unbelievable. We saw what he did on opening night last night with 40 and 15. I mean, the dude is unbelievable. But the West, folks, it's an absolute bloodbath. But if there's one player that I had to put the utmost confidence in, it would be Nikola Jokic. It would be Jamal Murray in the big moments in the postseason. We've seen them win it before. We've seen this championship DNA, and I believe that we will see this team get back to the promised land and ultimately win it all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Caden Kubler, and we'll see you guys later.